You've heard of Slapchop. You've heard of Sponge Chop. But what about Sponge Slop? Because that's how I painted this week. And it's the best that I have ever painted something. So let me show you why. Let me show you how easy it is. And let me show you how good it looks. Okay, so over the last year, I have been trying to find the best way to paint things quickly, but to paint them well. And then I kind of started going, well, do I just want to paint really good? And I think that's kind of the fight that everyone has to have with themselves when they get into this hobby. Do you want it to just be ready to play? Do you care how good it looks? Do you care more about the gameplay, or do you care more about how it looks and the art side of it? And I have leaned heavily towards the art side because I like art. I like to play the game too, but I also think if I can make these into works of art, even if I don't play the game 10, 15 years from now, I'll still have this beautiful work of art that I can put on my shelf. And I'm going to see how many times I can say work of art in this video. But anyway, as I've been trying to find out just exactly how good of a painter I can be, I've tried a lot of different things. Everyone knows about Slapchop, okay? And Sponge Chop is basically painting with a sponge after doing dry brushing over the whole unit. And, so Sponge Chop even has a little bit of people know about it. Well, a while back, I decided to start painting sloppy and just getting paint on everything and then going back and doing touch-ups. And so I called it my sloppy style. And anyway, this last week, I tried something a little different. No zenithal highlights, no airbrushing, no dry brushing. Literally, I primed a model black and then I started hitting it with the sponge, and I was not accurate and I was not clean. It was a very sloppy way to paint, and it turned out better than anything I have ever painted before. So I have to show you just kind of how that process went and see what you think. And I would like to point out that this is something I've never done before. I have never painted a wing before. I mean, even with like the dragon models, I'm looking all above my head at the dragon models that I painted. I dry brushed them, or I just hit them with a single color and tried to do like a paintbrush and a shade and things like that. I've never done this before, and it just came so naturally to me as I was painting these bat wings. Okay, these are from Warmachine. These models are the Fane of Nyrro. They're no joke, I kid you not. They are vampire elves that live underground, drink blood, and fly on giant bats. And so, giant bats. I'm going to give it a shot, see what I think. This is how it turned out. Okay, so to start things off, I thought I'm going to hit this with a brown. Okay, the thing to keep in mind with this painting style is that it's meant to be sloppy. So there's meant to be pullover. There's meant to be running colors into other colors, because honestly, it kind of helps as you go down this path. And with a sponge, you can't do like extreme detail. And so I just wanted to get some color thrown on this. So I went through, I did the ligaments and all of the body parts in the brown, because I thought I want brown to be the undercoat, the undertone of this creature. And ultimately, like, you can't even see it too much, but it helped. It helped a lot later on too. And so I hit that with the brown, and then the purple is what I wanted the actual color of this creature to be. And so I went back and I hit it with purple, and I lit it up as I went about doing it. And one thing I learned about this style is that ultimately you should start from the lowest color and move your way up. So anyway, after I was done with that, I decided, I'm going to get the metal. I'm trying to get the most, like the big pieces taken care of. And so I busted out my silver and I started sponging all of the armor and hitting the armor. And like I said, you kind of like that pullover. The brown that I put before, which I didn't mean to put it on the armor, but it just kind of worked out that way because I wasn't paying attention. But the brown serves underneath the silver as like a rusty metal. And so like afterwards I was like, oh man, I wish I had done all the armor in the brown. But it was one of those things that I kind of learned. But it did like a rusty old metallic all by itself. And I thought, that's really cool. And normally I dry brush metals because I think dry brushing metals on black is just the best way to do it. Wrong. Sponging the metal onto the black is absolutely just as good as dry brushing, if not better. And it just worked great. So anyway, after that, my son wants to use this army. So I asked him what color he wanted the wings to be. And he brought it out to me and he gave me red. And I thought, okay, red. I can do red. And then in the thinner points, I'm going to do like an orange, right? And so I started doing this. And as you can see, like, I'm hitting stuff that I painted already twice. And so as I was doing the red, I was just like, man, this is what I learned. I should have started with the wings first and then moved up to the outer surfaces. But anyway, I got the red down and then I thought, well, I want it to be darker in the corners, lighter in the center. And this is where the experimenting began. I wanted it to look good. I thought I wanted it to be orange in the middle. And so I went from a dark red to a lighter red to an orange. And at first I looked at it and I thought, you know, this it does look pretty good. But then I also thought, well, I'm not a huge fan of the orange. Okay. And so just to kind of get a glimpse of what it was going to look like, I started hitting it with purple along the creases and lines and things like that, just to see if I liked it. But as you can see from this, like, it doesn't look bad. Like that's the crazy thing. And this is all being done within the space of 20-30 minutes. I'm trying to get one wing looking the way I want it to, so then I can do the other sides, because you got to do tops and bottoms and all the other little pieces. And ultimately I looked at it and I thought, oh, I like this. I'm going to put some veins in it. Did not know how to do veins. Looked it up. Erased the ones I did here. Come back. And then, as you can see, I decided, you know what? I want it to be more orange. In fact, I want it to be almost yellow in the middle. And we'll go from that purple of the ligament to the dark red, to the light red, to the orange, to the yellow. Like, it's crazy how much like blending went into this. But the funny thing is that with the sponge, you can dab it on. And if you don't like how it looks when it's dabbed on, then you can just kind of pull it. The sponge is amazing. And that's it. It really wasn't hard. It was literally some tweezers, some sponge. I took one of these cool makeup brush sponges and I chopped it in half and then just went smaller and smaller into little pieces. And the funny thing is that I've always thought, well, sponge painting, you can't do on small models because the details are so fine. But my tweezers are super, to a super point. You can kind of see that right there. And so I can get a sponge that's that small. And so, yes, it worked really well on these wings and on the blending, and like, it just worked out super well. This is what it looks like, by the way. But I honestly thought to myself, how small can I go? So now the question is, can I paint little details using the sponge too? The sponging method, Sponge Slop is what I'm deeming it right now. And is it going to work? If that interests you at all and you want to see how it works on smaller models, stick around, like, subscribe, click that little bell thing, and you'll be notified of the next time I release a video, because I'm honestly curious if I can do it and if it'll look good and if it'll be fast. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if I still spend 10 hours on a single miniature just by using a sponge, it's not worth it. In my book, it's not, because I feel like you can just use a paintbrush and get it done too. So this is genuinely going to be a test of whether or not that works, because with this bigger model, I think it worked incredible. This is literally the most proud I have been of a single piece that I've done. And I have done some cool stuff. At least I think so. You don't have to think that. But anyway, I am curious to know what your thoughts are on sponge painting. I feel like a lot of people are doing it now. The reason I started this process was because of Matt Hart, who is one of the lead designers or head honchos at Steamforged Games, right? And he was painting while streaming, and the person he was talking to was like, yeah, I got to finish dry brushing these models. And Matt Hart said, oh, you should just sponge them. It's so much faster and it's better. You will do it once I show you how. And I thought, whoa, if he's doing it, and he paints like for artwork for the models that Warmachine does, And so I thought, I got to give this a shot. I got to see what I can do. And I just kind of went with it. Not the same way that he did, just kind of a way of my own. But I love how it turned out. So, are sponges viable? Do you think it's a real thing? Do you think it's worth getting into, or brushes will always be the number one when it comes to painting miniatures? Because I can keep these sponges. I can reuse these sponges over and over again. As long as I throw them into water, I can drain them and use them. And I'm actually genuinely curious to see the longevity of the sponge that I have cut up and the tiny little sponges that I use to see how well it works. I think it's fun. So, if you're interested at all, please like, subscribe, like I said, and stick around, because the next video will be a fun one. And as always, thank you for coming and watching the channel. It's made possible because of people like you, so genuinely, thank you. And as always, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.